Often when someone makes an argument and comes to a conclusion, they don't always come out and explicitly state all of their premises. Some of the premises that are needed to get us to the conclusion are left out and assumed to be true. Here's an example. Premise: Barack Obama served 2 terms as president. Conclusion: at the end of Obama's second term, he was not eligible for re-election in 2016. But to get from that premise to this conclusion, we actually need another premise, which is that the law prohibits presidents from serving more than 2 terms. Because this premise wasn't explicitly presented in the argument, this is what we would call a suppressed premise or an implicit premise. And sometimes having suppressed premises is okay, and it's more common than you might think. It's fine to leave a premise suppressed if it fits both of the following 2 criteria. If the premise is universally accepted, and if it's knowledge that the person or people you're speaking to already have. In my argument about Barack Obama, it would be okay to leave out the premise about presidents being bound legally to 2 terms if the person who I'm speaking to already knows that this premise is true. But here's another argument. Premise: we want fewer people to die from drug addiction. Conclusion: the war on drugs should continue. The suppressed or implicit premise here is that the war on drugs reduces deaths caused by drug addiction. Whether or not this premise is true, it's controversial, and it cannot be assumed that this premise is obvious to the person listening to the argument. And that's why it's important for us to recognize when premises may be implicit in an argument when the argument is presented. If a controversial or questionable premise is being implied, the person making the argument may have a responsibility to justify that claim as well. Implicit premises can create fallacies just as easily as stated premises.